Let's start today with a one nice big deep breath because I definitely need it. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Nothing gets me into a better mood than talking about my knitting and crochet and spinning, so let's get into it. Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty. Welcome to episode 262 of the Love and Stitches podcast. Today is a beautiful sunny day. I will admit my mood is a little bit on the grumpy side today. I don't know if anyone else is feeling that way. I think it's a combination of stress and some other things going on. But no joke, the second I actually sit down to start recording, my mood gets so much better. I genuinely think just like obviously knitting and crocheting make me happy, but just to sit down and talk about it changes my mood in like an instant. So very excited to share with you what I've been working on for this past week. I feel like this episode is going to be a little bit different. I actually spent a lot more time spinning this week than I did knitting, but I also did a lot of surgery on my knits this week, so I have lots to talk about in that regard. Let me share with you what I am wearing today. I have been wearing this sweater a ton since I finished it. I think I finished it last month. This is the Nordlig cardigan by Fiber Tales. It is so cozy and warm. I still haven't woven in my ends underneath the armhole, but they're not bothering me or showing, or maybe they are from the back. I don't know, but I'm not too worried about it. I've just been wearing it a ton and I love it so much. And before we get into the projects, I want to say a big thank you to today's sponsor, Craftsy. Craftsy is an online community and resource where millions of crafters, makers, and DIY enthusiasts find creative inspiration, advance their skills, and learn new ones along the way. Craftsy offers more than 2,000 exciting classes in over 20 popular categories like knitting and crochet, spinning, weaving, painting, baking, and more. I've been diving into the spinning and weaving category lately. You know, I have been getting really into spinning. I have more of that to show later in this video. But a class I fell into was Jillian Moreno's Spin the Yarn You Really Want, where she covers all kinds of different plying techniques. That then led me into another class all about drafting. This is JC Boggs Drafting from Worsted to Woolen. Admittedly, right now, I'm kind of just drafting any way that works for me, but I feel like I finally have an understanding of spinning, kind of those prerequisite skills that I can now advance my spinning a little bit more. There are classes available in so many different types of fiber arts, and one I particularly enjoyed is Stash Busting Secrets by Sally Melville. She actually goes through how to organize what you have in your stash and make it into this kind of mixed weight sweater. So maybe if you're like me and you're trying to use up different scraps, this could be a really helpful class to take. With Craftsy, you can learn directly from the experts with classes that are broken down into easy to follow lessons. And as a member, you'll have access to Craftsy's live streaming tutorials where award-winning instructors answer questions and share their tips in real time. The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description will get a full year of premium membership to Craftsy for only $1.49. Thanks again to Craftsy for sponsoring today's video. Now, onto the projects. Okay, let's get into this one because it is a bit of a bear. So I did some surgery this week on my BeachComber Flares. The BeachComber Flares are a pattern by Brianna Lupino, aka the Little Wolf Knits. I started this project for the first time at the very end of December. I knitted basically like the body portion, like the part that goes around your like waist and butt and all of that. And I realized it was too big. So I started it again in a smaller size with a smaller needle, and things were going great until last week when I realized that the legs were way too small. So I fixed the body problem. The body is fitting well, but the legs were not fitting. And I kind of moped around for about a week, not really doing anything at all with this. I just let it sit, and every day I was like, okay, tomorrow I'm finally going to decide if I want to rip out the legs or if I'm okay with them looking a bit stretched as long as they don't feel too tight. So I finally had the brain power to do that, or to like do something about it this past weekend. So this only happened a few days ago. It basically just sat for an entire week. So I put the pants back on again, and I have a picture here to show you what it looks like on my thighs. It looks very, very stretched out because it is. And so what I realized is that okay, so here are a couple things. Basically, a lot of different thought and math and discussion with different knitters has gone into this. So, including the designer. But I somebody said on the comments, I think last week in the podcast, why don't you just measure like your upper thigh to see if you need, like how much bigger you need to make the pants? And I'm like, that's brilliant. I don't know why I didn't think of that. I did a ton of measurements before I got started, but I don't think any of them actually included my own legs. I did measure on a pair of pants that I liked and all of that, but I didn't actually measure my own legs. So I measured my legs, and I want to say my upper thigh was like 25 inches or something like that. And then in the pattern, the upper thigh that I was creating was 19 inches. So that's 6 inches of negative ease. And so at first I was like, well, that should be fine because the recommended ease in the pattern is -2 to -6 inches. I have -6 inches on the body, and that's fitting great. I don't get it. And then somebody, and now I can't remember who said this, who I was talking to, it might have been one of my members, but they said, if you're getting 6 inches of negative ease on a smaller part of your body, your thigh, that's a much larger percentage of negative ease. So that might be why it's not fitting right. And I was like, oh, that makes so much sense now. So even though over my entire like waist and hips and stuff, 6 inches of negative ease was a fine percentage of negative ease. When I get to a smaller part of my body, like my thighs, that 6 inches is a much larger portion of the total circumference, right? So that just wasn't working out. So I'm like, okay, I need less than 6 inches of negative ease because that's just too much. Okay, so here's what I actually did. And it is still a little bit more, little bit math, a little bit of math, but not too much. Okay, let's talk about this. I have so much to share with you about this. I really love, yeah, I kind of hate it, but I also kind of love it, messing around with my knitting and figuring things out. It always feels so good at the end when you create a product that really fits you nicely. But for me, it does involve a lot of like waiting and sitting around until I get the brain space again or the motivation and just like moping for a little bit. And like, that's okay. It's okay if it doesn't work out, or if you end up not going back to a project, or it just, you just don't have the motivation. But I felt the motivation again to do this. So I think I'm going to be happy in the end that I did all of this work and messed around with it so much. Okay, so in order to start fixing this, I took my knitting needle and I picked up a row all the way around the main body portion. So above the legs, where I'd split the legs, above that, but below any of the short rows that I did. So I didn't lose any of that progress. So I did all of that, and I was just about to start frogging, like actually ripping out stitch by stitch and reballing each of the legs that I had done, because I had gotten them down to like almost the knee. And then it clicked for me, hey, I could actually cut off the legs, the knitting that I had done on each of these legs, and reattach it later after I've knit a little bit more on the upper part of the legs. So I'm so glad I realized that. Like I was literally like frogging the first row. So I ended up cutting off the legs just like this. How funny is that? They still had, like, I haven't even finished like unpicking those extra rows yet. So I basically just picked a plain, like a row that didn't have any kind of increasing or decreasing in it, so I could easily figure out where I was in the pattern. I made sure it was the same row on each leg so that they would also match. And I put them on smaller needles, and these have just been sitting to the side. I have used them for something, but I'll get to that in a second. Okay, so I've ripped everything apart. I unpicked everything. I basically got this portion back to where I could follow it again in the pattern. But I figured, if I'm ripping all of this out, why don't I add a few more things that I realized when I tried this on that could improve the fit for me? So I had added short rows. The pattern update now has short rows in it. You do them before you start, like after the waistband here. You do them, but because I had already knit down to the leg split, I added my short rows at the bottom here. So I had the short rows that are listed in the pattern. And again, I was like, well, I'm ripping all this back. I may as well mess around and try a couple of other things and see if I can even improve the fit more. So for me, I still felt like I didn't have enough room in the back. Like when I put this on, the back part of the waistband was sitting too low, like lower than my underwear. And so that really wasn't going to work. So I decided I would add, I think I added four more short rows. I added four more rows in total, but I don't know if you call that 2 short rows because like, is there and back a short row? I went there and back 2 times. So in total, that's 4 rows. Anyway, I put the notes in my Ravelry page, but I added additional ones to the back, and I think I can already tell a difference. I tried these on and they're already, coming up a little bit higher. 4 rows isn't a ton. It's like maybe half of an inch, but it's already coming up a little bit higher in the back, which is making the fit better, and I have a little bit more room in the back. So love that. You can always add short rows into something, whether it's bottoms or tops or anything to kind of affect the length of one side of that, which is a really good tip. I don't think I've ever put them in on my own before. And even this, I don't really consider adding them on my own because it was part of the pattern. I just added more. So that worked out great. Now, the other thing that I'm trying, I haven't actually completed it yet. So I can't really say if it's a super good idea or not, but I'm really excited to try it. And this is a crotch gusset. I don't know if that's the right term for it. I know it's called a gusset. I'm adding crotch gusset to it because it's in the crotch. So this is such a mess, but I gotta show you what I've done here. So I started the first leg, and to rectify my original problem, which is that the thigh is too small, I did cast on more stitches to the part that goes like under the crotch. So I have additional stitches here for the upper thigh. And then I'm also not starting to decrease right away. So in the original pattern, you immediately begin decreasing because for most of us, our legs get smaller. They start getting smaller as we go from the upper thigh to the knee, right? But for me, I need a little more length before I actually start shrinking my stitch count. I figured out that I'm gonna need about 4 inches of just working straight with this now larger stitch count before I need to start doing any of the decreases. So hold on just a second. I will come back into talking about the crotch gusset in just a second. I wonder if this video is going to get flagged for me saying crotch too many times, but it's just a normal thing. So why would it? So I did a little thing yesterday where I'm trying this on even more frequently. I tried this on. I thought I would only need 2 inches of working straight before I could start decreasing again, but putting it on my body and realizing how my body is, I need 4 inches of working straight. The other thing I wanted to figure out is like, how far do I need to go before I reattach these? So I'm gonna have decreased rows, of course, that I work from the leg down as I would originally do it. And I wanted to figure out where to start those. So I put this on. Maybe I will try to take a picture of this. Actually, I probably can't because this is like the stage that it's at right now, not like the most appropriate photos. So maybe I can't do that. But so just imagine with me. I put this on. So I pull this up like over my foot, over my leg, like basically up to my knee. And I'm like, how far up on my leg will this go comfortably? And it's a heck of a lot lower than where I was wearing it before. So that's where I figured out, like, I tried this on. This is ridiculous. If this is the first podcast you've come across, I'm so sorry. So I tried this on and I basically have a gap like this big between where this is fitting on my thigh and where this fits like coming up on my thigh. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I gotta knit more on this. So I will knit straight and then I have 3 sets of decreases with their rows in between before I will match this stitch count. So once I match this stitch count, I'm then going to graft the leg and the body together, or the upper leg and now what is like mid-thigh together. And I will just do that with Kitchener stitch. Super easy. I've only done this once before. I had a sweater that I knit too short and I really didn't want to undo all of the ribbing on the bottom. It also had a tubular sewn bind off, which is really annoying to unpick. So I actually figured out it would save me time to cut it out, add length, and then Kitchener it back together, and it worked out really great. So that's what I'm planning to do here with both legs. So I'm gonna knit more of the upper thigh. I think in total it will end up being about 6 inches before I add this. So imagine that, 6 inches of drop with more stitches before I get to this. The legs were definitely too small for me. So, but now I know. Now I know when measuring that I need more space for my legs, and that's okay. I guess it kind of makes sense because when I'm making things for my upper body, when I'm making sweaters, I usually can pick a smaller like overall bust size, but then I need to add more height to the armhole and more circumference to the armhole. So I guess those are just my proportions. Interesting. Okay, back to the crotch, and then that's it for this. Next week, hopefully these will look more like pants. So I decided I would feel even more comfortable in these if I had like a gusset in the crotch. So you know what? Let me grab the pair of pants I'm sort of basing this on so you can see what I mean. Here are a pair of exercise leggings. These are much snugger than the ones that I am making, but still a similar concept. So here in the crotch, there's this triangle right here. This is the gusset. So these two pieces over here are part of this leg. These two pieces over here are part of this leg. So that's what I want to try with this. It just, in general, having a gusset just creates more space and more fit, or better fit. So I thought, why not try it? I'm really proud of myself for what I've done so far, but I haven't got it quite right yet. So this is the gusset that I have so far. Basically, I'm just doing short rows, very similar in the way that I would do like a short row heel, but I think I've overshot it. So here it is in the center. Here's the leg I haven't started on yet. Here's the leg that I have started on. So when I cast on these stitches here, I did a figure 8 cast on holding a second needle like sandwiched in. So I got live stitches where I needed them for the pattern, but I also got a second set of live stitches. You can see that. That's that loose row right here. So maybe I should have used like a much smaller needle and that would have helped, but I think it's gonna even out pretty much anyway. So I started on this leg, I worked a couple of inches, and then I came back and I picked up these stitches and I did some short rows. And I was aiming for kind of a diamond or oval shape. You're also gonna see gussets like this in like tights and things. So I was kind of aiming for a diamond shape rather than a triangle that is in the really, really tight compression leggings because I want a little more space than that. So this is pretty good. This is only 1/2 of the gusset that I'm creating. So imagine this doubled. I think that's gonna be way, way too big. So I did all this last night. So today I'm gonna unpick this and I am going to do fewer short rows. Basically, I don't need them as long. So for this, I was doing a short row like every single stitch. I think I'm gonna do every other stitch so it'll be half as tall. And then when I work it on the other side, I will invert it. So it will be like short rows going out in a V and then short rows going in like an A, right? So it should create a semi like oval or like diamond shape is the plan. Whatever I do end up doing, I will put it into my project page. It won't be the most perfect instructions, but if you have a basic understanding of short rows, you should somewhat be able to replicate it. Also, this is not something that I've come up with or made up at all. It is a technique, obviously, in finished garments, in sewing, and also in knitting. There are probably other patterns that include a gusset for the pants, but I was like, why not try it? Why not really see what I can do with this and, you know, have fun and figure out a really good fit because I'm just so excited to have a pair of pants and I just want to love them so much. So I feel really proud of myself for this. I feel like even though I kind of wasted a week moping around, I think if I didn't do that and didn't just take the time to kind of sit on it and think about it, I would have rushed into things and I would not have come to these same conclusions. I would have not had the motivation to try so many different things. I probably would have just frogged back the legs, added a few stitches, and carried on, and that would have been fine. But now I feel even more excited and motivated because I am adding in things like the gusset in the crotch, and I was able to hopefully, as long as this works out, save myself at least this much knitting. So if all goes well, I'm hoping that next week I have an assembled pair of pants again where I am working down past the knees and approaching the flare on the pants. In the best of best worlds, I will finish these by the end of the month. The pants were very long-winded, so let's get into something that's a lot simpler and that is going quite well. I did have one little sort of disappointment in this project this week, but nothing too major. So this is the Musselburgh hat by Isolde Teague. It's a pattern I've made many, many times, and I started this one specifically because I was teaching a Musselburgh class at Bliss Yarns. So we had our second and final class this week, and I'm so happy to report everyone is doing great on their hats. We got to go through a lot of the different fun ways you can customize your Musselburgh. We got to go back and talk about the cast on. It's such a tricky part. I have a video that's a crochet pinhole cast on my channel for the Musselburgh that works great. And I actually just filmed a second tutorial that I'm going to be putting on the channel sometime in the next few weeks. It's also a pinhole cast on, but it's sort of a knitted version. You don't need a crochet hook at all. So if crochet hooks feel very fiddly to you, this might be a good alternative. So because I use that to teach the class, I just went ahead and filmed a video or a tutorial video, so that will be coming very soon. So I have finished the first like half of the hat. So this is the first, I always think of my Musselburgh hats in like six sections, I think. So crown one, body one, and then this is brim one. So for the first time, I'm going to be doing a hat with two different color brims. Maybe I've done two different color brims before, but each side of the hat was also different. This one is not going to be different. So I've got crown one, body one, brim two, and then I'm going to go back to my main color again for the other side of the hat for the body and the crown. So what's fun about these hats is when you fold them inside themselves and you fold them up, the second color that you knit will be the one that actually folds up and shows on this side of the hat. And then the opposite will be true of the other one. Since I'm doing both body parts of the hat and crowns the same, it doesn't really matter because one side of the hat's gonna have this color, one side's gonna have this color. But if you're ever doing one that has different colors on like each side, you wanna keep that in mind. And there's a really helpful diagram in the pattern to kind of sort that out. You can even color it in. I find it really, really helpful. So the only little small snag this week that I encountered, I have used a sock set from Woolen Women Fibers. It is from their February woolen box. I always forget what it's called, a woolen box, but it is from Woolen Women Fibers. And the colorway, there you go, camera. The colorway is called Rodeo and Romance, perfect for February. So it included two 10-gram balls of yarn. And I thought with 10 grams, I could get a brim of 3 inches. I usually try to knit my brim 3 inches long. When you have both sides, that's 6 inches in total. So I was hoping for 3 inches from this color and 3 inches from this color. But unfortunately, I only got like 2¼ inches. I went to the very end. So yeah, I hope that that's going to work out okay. My hat then will be shorter by 2 inches overall because 1 inch from each from each brim, but I think it will still work to fold up and everything, even with 2 inches. We'll just have to see. I'll see when I'm done, but I'm almost finished with contrast color number 2. I'll add back in the main color, and then I'll have 6.5 inches of just straight knitting to do, which will be great for just taking around with me over the next week. And then I'll be finishing this guy up. I do plan to finish this by the end of the month, which will feel so, so good. Let me catch you up on the spinning that I have been doing. The first thing is super exciting because I have my very first skein of yarn. Now I'm considering this my first skein of yarn because this is the first one that's been actually like a full amount of yarn, something that I can actually knit with. That's going to be, more than just a little sample. So I did do basically an entire week. It took me an entire week to spin my first little like sample, my practice one, and it ended up being a skein like this big. And that was with plying it with something that Brianna, who taught me how to spin, had already spun herself, and it doesn't look great. It's not consistent, it's not even. So this skein of yarn, I'm considering my very first one because it's the first one that I plan to actually make finished yarn with. And I'm really proud of how it came out. So here it is. Oh, it's so pretty. And in person, it is a little brighter than it's showing up on the camera. It's just so fun and so pretty. I took one braid that was dyed and then one undyed braid, and I applied them together to make a 2-ply yarn. Now this has yet to be washed. I just took it off of the bobbins and skeined it up just to see what it looks like. It's actually 4 little skeins, I think, or 3 little skeins in here because my bobbins are tiny and I didn't know how to pack them yet or use them to their full capacity. So I ended up with a lot of little skeins of yarn in here, but that's okay. I'm going to wash this hopefully this week. I need to get some zip ties and then it should kind of bloom a little bit. I'll also learn a bit more about how my plying went. I saw some of your comments from last week's episode. I was really proud of myself because when I held up my finished, like the first thing I took off the bobbin, it wasn't twisting up on itself. And I took that as like a great sign that, hey, I'm now like doing a balanced ply to my spin. But several of you said that actually it may be underplied and that I could fix that after the fact and go like run it back through and like spin it up a little bit more if needed. So thank you so much for the tips. Keep them coming. I'm still learning a lot about spinning, as I said, but it's always fun to learn more. Now, my big spinning project right now is I am spinning a fiber countdown from the Little Wolf Knits. It's How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days themed. I started opening and spinning it on February 1st, and I am so proud because I have kept up every single day. So I'm taking the 1 ounce that I open every day, and I am splitting it in half, and 1/2 of it I am plying up into ply number 1, and the other half of it I've been saving, but my plan is I'm going to split that half in half, right? So then I have quarters, and I'm going to ply it days, second ply will be days 1 through 28, and then 28 back to 1. And then I will take those 2 plies and put them together into a 2-ply yarn. So that is the plan. Actually, it'd be fun. Why don't we open up today's color together? Because then I can show you really what this looks like from kind of start to finish. Today is day 17. I've already started tearing into it here, so we wouldn't have to have too much wrinkling. Ooh, this is pretty. Oh my gosh. Yesterday's color was a really bright pink. And look at today's color, pink and purple. Super pretty. Today's yarn or fiber is Falkland. I really like spinning with Falkland. It's what I started out with. It has really, to me, it has really long like staple length, which makes it a little easier to spin. It's also very sticky, so it was great to start with as a beginner. And then the color is called Once in a Lifetime. So just imagine me taking this, I undo it so that it's one long strand, I split it in half, I ply up half of it, that's my daily routine. And then in the meantime, I've actually started ply 2 because I'm starting to get a little faster and more comfortable with my spinning, so I have a little more time in my day to spin a little bit more. I'm taking that second half and splitting it again into quarters, and I'm trying to spin that 1/4. So far, aside from keeping up with my daily 1/2, which I have now 4 of these bobbins. These are the 2 that I completed this past week. So this is my 3rd of my A-ply. and the fourth of my A ply. Because my bobbins are so tiny, I have to label them because I wouldn't be able to keep them straight otherwise. I will have something like 15 bobbins to then ply together at the end of this, which is kind of silly, but this is what I have right now. And then I have them on my Lazy Kate because I thought I might start plying. I've since decided against it, but I have the first of my B ply. So this is the quarters days 1 through 8. It looks quite different. So what is this? I think these are the same colors here at the end, and they look very different. Actually, no, they're not, because this one, wait, this is 9 through 12. So wait, wrong. This. No. Hold on. Where is it? Is it on here? 1 through 8. Yeah, actually, wait, I think I've labeled this wrong. I'll have to figure that out later. Maybe it's these two. So actually they do look pretty similar, but I'm just noticing that as I'm spinning it, it looks pretty different when I'm spinning the shorter amounts versus the longer amounts, which does make sense. In theory, the 1/2 ounces that I'm spinning together will make longer blocks of stripes than the 1/4 ounces that I'm spinning together. I don't know what I'm talking about. I know a little bit about what I'm talking about, but not a lot. So that's what I know so far. What I can genuinely say is that I'm getting faster at spinning. I think I'm getting more consistent at spinning. I am enjoying spinning even more because of that, because it just doesn't take as much effort, and I'm spinning a heck of a lot. So this is going to be so fun when I get to ply all that up, because this was 4 ounces in total, and this spin is going to be 28 ounces, so 7 times as much as this one. Our news today is going to be nice and quick. So first things first, the Sock Week 2025 sponsor application closes tomorrow. It's Friday, February 21st. It closes at midnight Eastern time. So if you've been thinking about applying to sponsor Sock Week, please get your application in. It's so great to have lots and lots of options. I love bringing in new sponsors every single year, and we're always looking for more people, especially from areas outside of the United States. That's really nice to be able to offer things that people from all over the world can order. Okay, events. I am going to be at Nash Yarn Fest. Nash Yarn Fest is in Nashville, Tennessee at the fairgrounds, March 14th and 15th. You do need a ticket in order to attend. This is the first year of Nash Yarn Fest, so I don't know much about it. Kent and I are planning on filming a vlog while we're there so we can share it with everybody, but specifically, I'm going to be at the Bliss Yarns booth from 2 to 3 p.m. on Saturday. So if you want a space where you know that I'm going to be, I will be there on that day. And then the Knit for Food Knit-a-thon is a virtual event that's happening on Saturday, April 5th. This is the 4th or 5th year, I can't remember, of Knit for Food. So it is a fundraiser, and I'm going to make sure to read off these correctly. So it is a fundraiser that benefits Feeding America, World Central Kitchen, No Kid Hungry, and Meals on Wheels. They raise thousands of dollars every single year, and it is put on by Laura Nelkin. This is my 3rd year participating, which means I've started a group to fundraise for the event, and then on that Saturday, I try to join in here and there on the Zooms as I can. So the goal for this year for the entire fundraiser is $379,011. So that's the total goal for this year's fundraiser. Our personal goal for Team Love and Stitches is $3,500. We raised $3,425 last year, so I think we can do it. I will put the link for Knit for Food, specifically the Love and Stitches team link, if you want to join as an individual fundraiser. Fundraiser and then join our team. I believe you can do both of those things. Any individual who raises $100 or more gets invited to the event on Saturday, April 5th. It's really fun. Laura puts together all these different speakers and activities that it's basically a knit-a-thon all day long. So it's lots and lots of fun. this past week I was quite social and I had a lot of fun, nitty social things going on. So the first thing is I met up with my friend Karina, who is newish to Nashville, for coffee and knitting. We had a really great time together, spent a few hours. She was knitting, I was knitting and crocheting. It was really, really great. And then on Saturday, we had our second Nashville Love and Stitches members meetup, and we had even more people. So we had 3 people in January. This time we had 6 people. There's lots of people in Nashville that are part of the membership. So that was really fun. I took my spinning wheel with me for the second time in public. So that was really great. And of course, our group attracted a little bit of attention. I think it was must have been like a new store manager. So they were going around to everyone in the store. But when they came over to us, of course, they were like, "Oh, what are you doing? Are you knitting?" And so we were like, "Yeah, I'm knitting. Oh, I'm crocheting. Oh, I'm spinning." And he was really interested in what we were doing and actually shared that he had started to learn to knit himself. So I had brought with me 2 boxes of yarn and bags and accessories that I was planning to donate. I was taking them to Smart Art, which is a donation, or it's a like a, how do I explain this? It's an art store, a secondhand arts and supplies store, and they take donations. So I was taking a donation to them. And then it also benefits adults with special needs, which is really cool. But I was bringing all of that stuff, and I was bringing it to our meetup because I knew some of the people there might want some of the stuff. So I was like, "You guys go through it, take whatever you want. Whatever's left, I'm going to take to donate to Smart Art." So I had all of this stuff with me, lots of different yarns of various like price points and thicknesses and things. And so when the manager expressed interest in that, I kind of looked at what I had and I was like, I feel like he might like to try a couple of these things. So he came back over at one point. We were there for a couple hours. And I said, I put together some yarns. If you are interested, you're welcome to take anything you want and just like to practice with and to go through. And so he ended up going through all of the yarn and taking several things for himself and his wife. So that was really exciting. It felt really good. It felt really great because I've been trying to work on cleaning out. I've been working on organizing my stash. I've been working on cleaning out things that I know I'm not going to use. It's great to take it to a donation center. I love doing that. It's great to give it to friends, but it felt even better to know that there was somebody that just like happened to interact with us that day that also got to, get some yarn that they may not have otherwise been exposed to. So I don't know. I just thought that was really exciting and it made me feel really good. In addition to that, I've also shipped off a good amount of yarn this week between Love and Stitches member prizes and things. I took those 2 boxes of donations out. And my corner upstairs is finally feeling like it's completed. I can actually sit in that chair again. So after I organized everything, if you didn't see, I filmed a video getting that space together. I still had a couple of boxes to go through. So those were kind of sitting on that chair. So now that all of that stuff is out, I am finally able to like functionally use that space. And it feels just really good. I spend a lot of time actually in this chair, especially when I'm spinning. I have a little table here that I put in front of me and I spin. But I need to start using that space upstairs a little bit more. I need to get myself a little table up there so I can, watch YouTube videos and get on Zoom and stuff. It's nice to have little spaces to be cozy and to relax in. Before, my options were either like to sit in the bed, which is fine. I do like doing that sometimes, but it doesn't feel great on your body after a while. And also like the bed is for sleeping. So I didn't want to spend too much time in the bed. And then Kent and I have our own like living room space upstairs. But for me to be alone, I really like sometimes just having like crafting time alone. I didn't really have that space until recently. So it's nice to have lots of options. Okay, I think that's everything for this week. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!